I'm Robbie Thigpen, and welcome to the Sargassum Podcast.
I'm Jenna Contuccio.
And I'm Francisca Elmer, and we are your hosts for today. We are going to share with you the latest ideas and concepts about sargassum and sargassum beaching events, which have become an international challenge. Let's get ready to learn together.
Good morning, everyone. We had us a nice little Christmas break, but we're back here to learn together on the Sargassum Podcast. And what did Fran and Jenna do this last over the holidays?
Robbie, well, I went to Switzerland for an entire month to see my family for Christmas, and it was really, really cool. I got to go into the snow, and my family met my boyfriend for the first time after 2 years of being together. So it was really, really good. And yeah, you may have seen Jenna before on our podcast. She was our summer intern, and now she has come back as our co-host.
Hello, everyone. It's nice to be here in a new role. I'm really happy to stay with the podcast. And I am in California right now on a chilly California morning. What did I do over break? I looked for funding for my graduate school program. I just started my last semester of undergrad just this week and looking forward to starting graduate school in the fall. So that's what I'm up to.
Are you writing any books on sea turtles?
Yes. I'm also helping with this really cool project that Robbie is also involved with. And my responsibility for this project is to write a scientific book for 4th grade and 9th grade right now about sea turtles.
Excellent. And we've got one other new person here today, and that's Jose, and he's our producer. I thought I saw him a second ago, but maybe he's disappeared. But he's here today, and we have a couple of guys that are helping us with that, and they're both from Maricopa Community College out there in a really dry place, and so I see why they're fixated on the ocean, since all they got is sand out there. They need a little bit of salt water. Anyway, let's get ready to learn together at all. Today we got a really great new guest with us today. Her name is Dr. Shelly-Ann Cox, and she's an experienced ocean professional and a science communicator and founder and CEO of the boutique consultancy firm called Blue Shell Productions, which specializes in blue economy consulting, event planning, management, and science communication. She received her Ph.D. in natural resource management at Cermes at the University of the West Indies in Barbados, where she also worked on her postdoc. She's an oceanpreneur, fisheries management specialist, and the mother of a beautiful 3-year-old who she just showed us his picture and all that. And that made us all smile today. And in the sargassum world, she is well known as a coordinator and co-editor of the Sargassum Sub-Regional Outlook Bulletin that predicts sargassum influxes in the Eastern Caribbean. And you may have saw that document if you're on the GCFI listserv. It got sent out about a week ago. And also, that's who we're talking to today. And welcome, Dr. Shelly-Ann, and let's get ready to teach us something so we can learn together.
Thanks, Robbie. It's a pleasure being here with you and the team this morning.
Yeah, welcome to the podcast, Shelly-Ann. The first question we ask everybody on the podcast is, what is sargassum to you?
So sargassum, I would think, is a brown tide or a golden jewel. That's how I tend to look at it. Of course, cognizant of the fact of the negative impacts that it brings to our sectors like health, tourism, energy, even recently seeing the impacts to the energy sector in Puerto Rico, as well as the environment. And then, of course, sargassum being called a symptom of climate change, the greatest single threat to the Caribbean tourism industry. So on the brown tide side, I would say, the negative impacts, the severe influxes we've seen in Barbados, over 6 feet stacked up on the beach. And, that's the negative side of sargassum. But on the golden jewel side, looking at sargassum as, opportunities. We've seen a lot of innovation in terms of the creation of products and services, be it innovation in cleaning equipment, booms, and other things. But there's a multiplicity of uses. We feature 14 uses in our sargassum uses guide, and there's lots of opportunity for young people, women, and even older people as well too, to get involved in the innovative side of it. Earlier today, I was talking for Jose, for example, about looking at sargassum as a muse for artistic pursuits. And I was telling him about, a song from a Guadeloupe musician, Boss Papi. I think you featured some artists already on the podcast. They had a video immersive production, Charles Moore, for example, another artist. And, this is what I would like to see more of. In terms of poetry, I've only seen a lot of poetry about the Sargasso Sea. So, another area opportunity we need to be exploring, people, writing creatively about the experience and looking towards, the innovation and addressing this, I wouldn't say recent, it's been a decade, but addressing this environmental issue.
I love the positive spin and attitude that you have and excitement for innovation. And on the podcast, we love to hear about innovations and different creative ideas that people are coming up with. So thank you for highlighting that. Your work has been focused both on fisheries and sargassum. How does the sargassum affect fishermen and women in Barbados and in the region?
Yes, so we've been seeing a lot of impacts. So, if, for example, sargassum clogs fishing gear. It gets around the propellers. It impedes navigation. We've seen the access to jetties at landing sites, for instance, being obstructed. So then fishermen can't get out to sea. So we've seen lots of lost days in terms of fishing. And of course, a lot of our landing sites are on the windward sides of the islands in the Caribbean, Eastern Caribbean specifically, which are always, inundated with lots of sargassum. Some fishermen, especially the coastal spear fishers, they have, reported that they get some skin irritations while diving as well. Some of them use vinegar to ease the irritation. I guess most significantly, Hazel and I and others had looked at the impact on dolphinfish and flying fish landings, and we saw a decrease of 52% in flying fish landings in Barbados. And Barbados is the land of the flying fish. It's part of our national identity. It's on our dollar. It's used in the branding and marketing of Barbados as a tourism destination. And we are hardly seeing any flying fish. It used to account for 60% of our landings. Now it's less than 30%. Probably in terms of estimates, it's about 19 million US per year. But of course, now we're nowhere close to that. Dolphin fish as well, just about 30% decrease in landings. And we're seeing the smaller juvenile dolphin fish, which are being caught now. So there's been a lot of discussion on whether size limits need to be enforced because we're landing these juvenile dolphin fish. And, size matters. And, there has been some draft legislation in Barbados around this. But even at the regional level, the Caribbean Regional Fisheries Mechanism has offered some guidance on what that recommended size limit should be. So yeah, definitely a lot of negative impacts as it relates to fisheries. On the flip side of things, we've been seeing a lot of almaco jacks, what locally is called as amberfish, being caught. People are developing a taste for it. It's a very nice, soft white fish, very delicious. And, people have also indicated seeing, smaller lobsters and other smaller fish coming in with the sargassum. So in a sense, there's some renewal there. But some fishermen will tell you they love sargassum. Others would say no, they don't. But it is quite a interesting, well, a topic of discussion all the time as we try to work to give people a heads up as it relates to 6 months beforehand or 3 months beforehand. How do I plan my operations, and take advantage of the sargassum mats that might be arriving?
Excellent. I think minimum harvest size are a very important aspect of resource management and all. And just for my 2 cents, there's in the past there's been too many countries that set the minimum harvest size very close to the size of fecundancy, and I believe this leads into the fact of fish and lobsters and things being harvested before they've had a reproductive opportunity. And it's the minimum harvest size should be high enough, large enough that we guarantee at least one opportunity. And if it's high enough where we can guarantee, where the size guarantees at least 2 reproductive opportunities, the fishery is going to grow economically, and that's just a very
Yeah.
important thing. And
Yeah.
and maybe they need to be talking about a maximum harvest size too, because those big boys are the ones we want to be doing the most reproduction. They're
Yeah.
the females that are most fecundant. They're passing on good genes, and yeah, those are just some things I'd like to see. But that's my 2 cents.
Yeah.
Anyway, getting back to fishers and all that, what do you think is a good way to, or a good type of information that the fishermen need to better deal with sargassum?
Yeah. Well, they usually like to hear if we have a sense on where the mats are. A lot of our fishers from Barbados, for instance, fish southeast of the island. You also get a sense of Suriname as well as Guyanese fishers in that area too, right? Southeast in the high seas as it relates to longline fishing. And of course, we know longline fishing gear will definitely get clogged with sargassum. So they like, especially to see that process satellite image, which indicates, the reds where there are the huge mats, so that they can plan accordingly. They're also interested to hear if it's going to be a good year or a bad year. Right now we're doing 3 months and 6 months experimental products, but we're working towards that 1 year experimental product where we can give good information to even the innovators, because the innovators have, it's one of the challenges. If they can't show that there's a predictable supply from year to year, then they can't get the loans that they need to support their startups. And, we can't, up to now, right, tell them a year in advance if there will be more or less sargassum. And then, perhaps even thinking about, do we need to grow sargassum in some years to support some industrial action in building out sargassum enterprises? So, that's one stakeholder. But yeah, the fishers for sure. They like to know. They do use apps and so on, like Wind Guru, to look at how the wind is traveling as well. So they use the information in combination with other things. Some of them look at ocean temperatures as well too. You would be surprised at how tech savvy some of our fisher folk in the Caribbean are. They teach me some of the apps, and I tend to look at them myself too. As well in terms of early warning. But I think we've come to a culture to appreciate climate information and climate services, and how important that is in informing decision making, not only for sector stakeholders, but also policymakers.
So you just told us a lot about forecasting. And the forecasts you make, you publish them in the Sargassum
Yes.
Outlook Bulletin. But there's a lot more in there than just the forecast. So tell us what people can find in it and how much time goes into making one
Yes.
of
So,
these
the
bulletins as
production
well.
of the bulletin is, a good team effort on our part. Dawn and Jim from University of Southern Mississippi. Dawn leads the forecasting aspect. And we've come to, I guess, in terms of production, 2 days on his end and maybe 2 days on my end. And, Hazel, the co-editor, she does, the final checks and then we publish. But of course, in the beginning, my background in climate services, I worked at the Caribbean Institute for Meteorology and Hydrology for 4 years. And there we conceptualized some sectoral bulletins. So we use rainfall and temperature forecasts as well. So that was my background coming in. And when I returned to Surmise, I was like, it's good to have a forecast, but it's even better to really package it and tailor it for sectoral users. So hence we would start with, what the situation looks like now. And then we will speak about the 3-month forecast. But then we think it's very important that we communicate the implications to important sectors. So we focus on fisheries and tourism, for example, for a while. We started to include some environmental messages as well. There's lots about health. So in terms of, we've not really focused in on health specifically. And then, of course, the new energy focus. So, as times goes on, I always do a check of content, what's going on, what are the latest, because, we feature the latest publications as well. So I'm always trying to be on the pulse of that. Any upcoming workshops, we try to feature as well. I even look into, what's the latest publications, if it's, people, not only publications, but resources. So we've seen resources from our French colleagues around sargassum cleaning equipment that we featured in the past. We featured, some sargassum articles that are more in tune, communication, better pictures and so on. And of course, we always wanted to shine a spotlight on the innovative part. So we've been doing that feature. So we did sea fields in the issue before, and we just focused in on Talasso Ocean and their aqua drone, which is quite exciting, a startup, Mexican, Norwegian, and they're working hard to release, that prototype. And, lots of research and innovation going into the make of that. So yes, it's a package. We really love the feedback that we get from our users and readers in terms of the information, how they've been using it. And in the beginning, we did a bit of tests, of course, with stakeholders. So in the beginning, it took a while to conceptualize and build out. But in terms of every other month, we do about 4 days between us all in terms of production. And our distribution list is now over 3,000 persons. We're in different listservs. So Robbie spoke to GCFI, we're in CAMPAM, we're in SARGNet, lots of fisherfolk groups as well in the region that we share the information with. And we use MailChimp, so we always have a good analytics of who's opening the messages, who's sharing it, and so on.
So recently you founded your own boutique consultancy, Blue Shell Production.
Yes.
What type of topics can your consultancy help people with?
Yeah, so I've been working a lot on, fisheries management. So right now I'm working on a long line project in Barbados, sargassum management as well. I consulted with the UNEP, Caribbean Environment Program, leading the authorship on the sargassum white paper. I wrote that with my colleague Karima, and Ileana was our oversight. Sargassum, fisheries, blue economy as well too. I led a team looking at a blue economy scoping study for Montserrat. And I'm doing a lot in terms of digital technologies in fishery sector. So vessel monitoring systems, helping UNDP in terms of their Blue Digital project here in Barbados and the region. So yes, and recently I'm part of a youth incubator program with the Prime Minister's office here. I'm leading the Future Blue pillar So that's another interesting program that I am involved in right now. On the creative side of things, I've planned environmental festivals, coral reef symposiums, and so on in the past. So I wanted to do fun stuff as well. So yeah, anything environmental, anything blue, right? So that's the blue and blue shell. And then I'm Shell. I'm affectionately called Shell or Shells by family members, friends. Yeah. So
You have
yes.
your hands in all the pots for the greater good. I love it.
For the greater good, yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
I like it. But we've been asked by one of our listeners last year a question, and we'd like to put that to you. And essentially, what they want to know about is advice for small beachside guest houses, how they can deal with sargassum. Do you have any recommendations for them?
Yeah, well, in terms of, I was, thinking about how best they could participate, but I really see their role in the early warning and connecting that information back to the local authorities. I know in the past we would have told people, put the sargassum on your plants, but we're still researching, the heavy metal content in sargassum. So, we like to caution people on that and encourage them to use like the plant biotonics and so on the market, that have gone through the process of removal of heavy metals. So I think they have a very important role in, raising the awareness of local authorities to the influxes, as well as connecting with some of the innovators who would prefer fresh sargassum for their product development. And, I've also seen some beachside coastal residents being very involved in sargassum management as it relates to providing guidance on management committees and task force. And you see some of them involved in, cleaning and raking as well. Some communities coming together to clean if it's not a severe influx. So if it's mild or moderate, in terms of championing that, bringing some community rapport together to do some cleaning and making a positive impact. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice. It's so hard for these really small places that have the sargassum coming straight in front of their doorstep, and then they're losing their business, but they're not as big as a hotel or to actually clean it up themselves if they have a big influx. So I think they're definitely one of the stakeholders who are impacted the most because they just don't have the type of funding to even
Yeah.
start a big operation or get a barrier or get a boat. So they may have to work together as a community, as you said, to actually get these things together. I looked through your consultancy products that you offer or services, and two of them really caught my eye. One is blue guerrilla
Yes.
marketing, and the other one is blue weddings. So what can we
Yes,
expect
so
if we
I'm
hire you
even going
for
to
either
tell
of
you one
these?
of my crazy ideas. So guerrilla marketing. So guerrilla marketing is this advertising strategy that use surprise, unconventional interactions to really sell a product or a service. But I really think that this could be used to communicate environmental messages in terms of marine conservation and so on. So some of you may have seen, for instance, McDonald's using a crossing as fries. Or, for instance, here in Barbados, Sagicor Insurance Company, for Breast Cancer Month, they painted the road hump pink. And then there was a sign, did you feel that? Go get your breast checked. So yeah, that's the kind of marketing that you see that really captures you. So I actually wrote a short concept note on this. I wanted to take the crosswalk down Bridgetown, close to the Bridgetown Fisheries Complex, and use it as a ruler and this will be around the size limit that I was speaking about the dolphinfish before, which is about 25 inches, 65 centimeters fork length that has been recommended. So take the crosswalk, make the little ticks in the crosswalk, have a picture of a dolphinfish, and basically, you have up to 25 inches, right, with the measure in the crosswalk, and just have the two words size matters. And that's it, lots of people cross that crosswalk. They won't be able to miss it. And then they'll see the, size matters, they Googled it. They get to, is a talking point as well too, for people and, general public, not just us, the faithful few in our circles that know these things, but it would be there in view for everybody to see. So yes, that's one of my ideas around that. And then, more ideas around, for instance, it was Virgin Atlantic back in the day that had used a flying fish, as part of their airplane in their marketing. So something like that as well too, like how to use billboards. Even a lot of people have used the escalator, for example, as well too in guerrilla marketing. So yes, it might not be the cheapest, and this is one of my feelings is that we always tie into marine projects. We always have these really small communications budget, but I feel like it's time for us to have a project with a really big communications budget, where we have full page colored ads, and in Barbados that's about $3,000 for a full page colored ad on Sundays, the prime spot. So I think when we start to think like that and think like, and really need to invest in raising the communications. I mean, the Sargassum Podcast is great. We've been doing videos, we've been doing brochures, briefs, and all of these things. But if you really want to get to the general public and really want to bring things in full view, we need to get creative and innovative. We need to get crazy, I would say. So yeah, that's guerrilla marketing. On the blue wedding side of things, my idea is really exciting in terms of promoting sustainability. So every part of the wedding has promotes sustainability. So it's either a digital wedding invitation or a wedding invitation printed on recycled paper or sargassum paper. So you have, that's the first step. You have a charity registry, for instance. A lot of people are doing that now. So instead of, a registry at a department store, you give money to Marine Frontiers, for example, or some researcher doing great work. Of course, we're going to have seed to slate, farm to table in terms of catering, looking at organic wines, for instance, on the menu. As it relates to the venue, of course, just one venue for the service and the reception. Of course, we're using electric cars for the bride, the groom. Even looking into electric shuttles, making sure everybody gets to one central location, and then you shuttle them on an electric vehicle to the location. And in terms of, there's plant confetti, even in terms of the decorations, there's that. And then, of course, an eco-friendly honeymoon at the end of it. So offering the services of, putting on a production like that. I've planned weddings in the past, but I always wanted to be like, just a full-on sustainable wedding. And, around the venue, you can have cute little things printed on sargassum paper, of course, cluing in the wedding guests about why this was done. Yeah. And of course, projecting certain things as well, trying to cut down on the paper. Even a water station. There's a really cool water company here in Barbados called Eco Sky. They extract the water using solar powered extractions from the sky. So working like companies like that, and really involving them in a production like that. And of course, making sure if you can offset some of your events by, buying and planting trees and so on. So building out all of that. I had the flip side too of an environmentally funeral and realizing that that's really a market picking up in the US and the UK as well. So yes, all of those sustainability, eco-friendly measures. And of course, it's going to be tasteful and beautiful as well. And there are even some bridal dresses as well, persons using organic dyes and so on. So it all depends on how strict the client wants to go. But in essence, yeah, it would be to, save money and save the environment.
Those are such great ideas. And I love the idea of making events green, because maybe the bride and the groom are very environmentally conscious, but I'm sure there's always some people who they invited who don't know much about sustainable products and may have some reservations against them, thinking they don't taste that good, they don't look that good. And if you really put something together that looks polished and chic and great, then people, they see that maybe they're wrong about that, and that sustainable products can be great. And the guerrilla marketing, I love it. I love the idea of the sidewalk with the dolphinfish. About 12 years ago, I was part of a sustainability club, and we had a website for people to check their energy use at home. And as part of the marketing of starting the new website, we did some guerrilla marketing as well. I made a costume of a guy that looks like an energy devil. So it was a made-up figure that uses a lot of energy. And we walked around in the costume on campus at university for about a week and just gave little cards, like little, what do you call them in English? The cards you give to business partners, like where you have your name on it. So it just was like a little, a little business card to maybe one person in the room. And then the week after, we put out flyers so everybody like remembered the face of this energy devil, and he was on the flyer and people could figure out what it was about. And even years after, people were like, oh yeah, I remember that campaign about that devil that was walking around the school. So it really worked.
Experience. Yeah, definitely.
I did some sea turtle research actually with someone who was at UWI, who is now a professor at UWI, when I was living in St. Kitts, and we ran a little ad campaign around that didn't get to go anywhere because of funding, but it was take Viagra, save a sea turtle. And I really was hoping that would catch on like Caribbean wide, because I thought, if that's the running story about why you need to eat sea turtle eggs, then people could just take Viagra and they would save all of the sea turtles. Never really got off the ground.
Oh, boy. That's good. Is that Professor Horrocks that you know at UWI?
Darren Brown. No, his name is Darren Brown.
Oh, Darren Brown. Yeah. Yes. I know him. Yes. Yeah, that's a good one too.
Well, the thing about sea turtles and Viagra is we need to talk about lionfish. The lionfish make a man's back strong. It's better than any of that stuff. So if you want to have a good time with you, eat fishermen need to eat the lionfish. Feed it to your family. Your man's gonna have a strong back if you do that. Lionfish make you strong.
In Barbados, it's the sea urchin. It's the roe of the white sea urchin. That's the aphrodisiac. Actually, one of our earlier chief fisheries officers, he wrote, it was GCFI in the 40s. He wrote a paper and he said that, sea urchins have been attributed to the overpopulation of Barbados. So I always found that hilarious to read in a GCFI paper. Oh, yeah, it's from the 40s that the whales, yeah. But yeah, yes. I don't want to get too off track, but it's those kinds of campaigns that really engage the general public about marine conservation and so on. I'm also very interested in technology, in terms of artificial intelligence and machine learning, and how we can use that, especially in making sargassum value chains more traceable. I've been doing a bit of work in terms of seafood traceability in Barbados, and looking at, of course, the vessel monitoring systems as the first part of that traceability. But thinking about how it would relate, because as we build out these sargassum industries, we will need to make sure that the value chains are traceable, that people know where the sargassum is coming from, that it's been through a process, to that there's no heavy metals in there, and that although we don't have the regulatory framework in place right now in terms of qualities and standards for products, that we eventually get there. So I think we need to start building out those frameworks from now, and technology helps with that, Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you could
Yeah.
potentially use blockchain for that as well. I'm still very new to learning about it,
Blockchain,
but
yeah.
what I know
Actually, I
about it is
included
that
that in
you
our
can trace
paper.
stuff really well using
At
blockchain.
first, when I pitched that, I was like, yeah, blockchain can be used in terms of value chains and building it out, as well as AI, machine learning, and like for instance, we are trying to do using image recognition and AI to look at tuna grading, based on tuna scope, a Japanese application that came out. But all of these things could be adapted. For instance, someone was telling me that it could be used to determine different species type of sargassum, by taking images and having the computer trained through machine learning to identify the different species. Because we are seeing our colleagues publishing about the different types of the natans, for instance, and then realizing that some innovators prefer one particular type. It might yield more alginates and so on. So we need to start thinking about these things from quite early, before things start to develop. Yeah.
Well, Shelly-Ann, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
Yeah,
All the best.
thank you for teaching us. We appreciate you.
Okay.
And
All right.
well, everybody, that was Dr. Shelly-Ann Cox with us today, and I learned some stuff today I didn't know before. But that's one of my favorite parts about being a part of the Sargassum podcast. I get an opportunity to talk to a lot of really smart people, especially people that know things that I don't know, and I like learning and all. So that was a lot of fun to get this season started off. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I really, really liked the interview, and it's so nice to be back doing interviews. We haven't done it for a few months, and these conversations are always so much fun. And Shelly-Ann was a great guest, like learning about so many different things, like learning about the fisheries and how they're impacted, and how it also impacts the cultural image because of the flying fish being less caught, and the impact on the dolphinfish that could be quite substantial if they start getting the smaller ones. But then also the other sides, the really creative ideas she has for
I
marketing
love
and for
how
doing communications.
positive
I
she was
love
about
that part
everything
as
and
well.
all the spins. She's got her hands everywhere doing all sorts of really good stuff, and I love that she's so involved for her community. And I really, really like the idea of the dolphinfish on the crosswalk, just because people do really, I think, there's more of an impact from a visual, something like that, for sure. So I love the blue guerrilla marketing.
We want to thank everybody for being with us today. Like I said, I've learned a lot, and I hope you have too. But we don't want you to forget that the Sargassum Podcast would not be possible without the generous support of Seafields and the Kimberly Green Latin American and Caribbean Center at Florida International University. We always want to give them a big one up there. And anyway, we'll see you in a couple of weeks, and thanks for learning with us today.
Thank you for tuning in today and learning with us from our guests. If you want more information about what our guests talked about today, check our show notes for links and information in our archive, and don't forget to like and share our podcast with your friends.
If you enjoy our podcast, please consider supporting us financially by becoming a Patreon. For as little as $1 per month, you can support us and get the exclusive benefit of submitting questions for our interviewees before the interview.
The Sargassum Podcast is produced by Marine Conservation Without Borders and is made possible with financial support and consideration from Seafields and the Kimberly Green Latin America and Caribbean Center, U.S. Department of Education Title VI grant. It is produced by Jose Martinez, Alex Daniele, Cleo Maridakis, Francisca Elmer, and Alois Lopez, and is hosted by Robbie Thigpen, Francisca Elmer, Jenna Cantuccio, Florence Menez, Cleo Maridakis, and Paula Diaz.
We will be back in 2 weeks with another exciting guest. The music for the podcast is from the song Them Pray by Drizzle, the Rum Drama, an artist from Rotterdam. Follow him on Spotify and YouTube for more music, but for now, this is the full song Them Pray.